For 15 years, we were married for 7. It was a beautiful thing, and we still had, like, the normal ups and downs. But I will say, we didn't have a relationship where we argued all the time.
Yeah.
We didn't have a relationship where we were dealing with infidelity or stuff like that, during those times. We didn't have that type of relationship. So, because we were friends first. So it was always like, that's my homie. It was just something in me as a woman. I cannot explain it to where it was like I was battling myself. You feel like I'm trying to do the right thing, but it's something that's pulling me away from doing this. But why would it pull me away from my husband? I'm battling in the midst of that with religion, like what the people telling me at church and what I'm getting spiritual advice from. And then I'm battling with it with myself. Like, why am I feeling this way? I'm talking about I'm going to therapy for myself to figure out why am I feeling this way towards my husband. And the way I was feeling, it wasn't like I felt resentment towards him. It was almost like I was withholding a piece of me that I couldn't give him. I'm sitting on the couch and we had a small issue, and that small issue was back that pattern. Now, mind you, we done went to therapy for this. We done had talks for this. I done talked to you. What did you get from this after I said? To make sure you understand, because I love to communicate. And I'm sitting on the couch, y'all, and I kid you not, God told me, that is not your husband.
All right, it was the wow for me. But after 15 years, God said that is not your husband's. The comments, it's not, it's always entertaining in the comments, but some of them are, that was not God, that was Satan. The streets were calling and she picked up the line. For some reason, I believe she know exactly what she was battling. She just not telling us, the Jezebel spirit, perhaps. So God waited 15 years to tell you he wasn't your husband. So these are just some of the things, man. Ain't no way God told you to leave a good marriage. I'm confused. Just because a man is good, a good man, that don't mean he's your good man. Seems like sis got bored and left. I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts. We often, almost like I said, we often see that, but we do see a lot of women just walk away from relationships because they're not happy for their happiness. So they may suggest that they marry for all the wrong reasons. But I am curious to get your thoughts. I'm gonna start with you first, Tal.
That was interesting. Um, there are a few factors I feel like I need to know about this. For one, how old is she? She was with this man for 15 years. If she was only, let's say, 30, that means she's been with him since she was 15. Now, does that necessarily mean that I think God spoke to her on that couch? I don't really like to jump in and say when God is speaking to someone and when they're not. God speaks in many different ways. But from the outside looking in, I would more say that it wasn't necessarily God, it was her need for something different. Maybe, right? Especially if she was, let's say, only 30 and she's only been with this man since she was 15. A lot of people glorify long term relationships and people that have been together since high school, but the reality is a lot of those marriages or relationships don't always pan out the way that we would think they would, right? They don't always last as long. And I think it's really because neither one of them, and whether it's a man or a woman, they haven't really had the time to live and learn themselves. She said she felt like it was a part of her that she couldn't share with him. No, it really was a part of her that she still didn't know because she had always been this person with him. And as she grew older, maybe she began to change. And it's like, well, do I really like this? Do I want something else? She doesn't know because she's never tried anything different. Now, I know, men want a woman that's, or some men, I'm not going to say all men, some men want a woman that's never been with anyone but them. But unfortunately, sometimes when you have that situation, this is what you'll run into is a woman who's looking for something else when she's 30, when she's 40, because she's only had you. And now she wants to go and have her fun. So do I really feel like God spoke to her? I don't know. That's tough. And I feel really bad for her husband because everything she said was good. She said that he did nothing wrong. Even the small conversation, she didn't say that he dismissed her or didn't communicate with her or wasn't trying with her. It was all her. She was having an internal battle with herself, and she felt like her best thing was to get out and run. And to be honest, I mean, she really should have just stayed at home because the streets is trash. Okay, ain't nothing out here in these streets, baby. But she'll learn that on her own. And hopefully once she go back to her man, he might be good enough to take her back. I don't know. But the whole God's supposed to her thing, that's tough. That's tough. I think it was more so of her just wanting to try something new, sadly.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Kelly.
Yeah, I personally, I can't say what God said to her, right? But I do know that with lack of experience, you tend to wonder about different things because you just don't have that experience. Everybody don't need that experience, but it seems like the ones that don't have it, they have that, they crave, something different. And like Ty said, she mentioned nothing negative about her husband. So I think the issues came from within. And I think those issues she could have managed within the marriage. But just walking away is a lack of communication. It's like you should be able to work these things out. You're married. You shouldn't just, look, I'm not married. But I don't think that I could just easily walk away from my husband. Like, that's not a boyfriend. That's not just somebody that you're talking to. That's a serious relationship. So, she does look young. I will say that. That's really all I have. I just think communication is a lost art these days, for sure. Because I don't think hearing God say that's not your husband is enough reason to walk away, because maybe you heard something else, I don't know.
All these ladies are saying much more with their eyes than with their words. Like, I watched her in particular. I'm so curious about what the raw version of your thoughts would be, because you were like, I felt like you were sitting there thinking, baby, I wouldn't do that. Like, the raw version would be so interesting.
So you're saying we need somebody to speak exactly what they feel?
Go ahead and say it. Yeah, come on now.
Go ahead and say it. Okay, well, Raimi is good at that.
All right, go ahead, Raimi.
Thank you, Kelly, because I ain't gonna hold you. I was starting to bubble and boil over here just a tad bit. I want to just first say that, like, Tay 8, when she started out with the thought that, like, where are we at? Like, I need more context of, just, is she 15 years in and you are a high school sweetheart? Because 15 years at any point, I don't care, at any age, 15 years is a long time to develop, grow, think. Now we're talking about who's going faster than the other, if we're keeping up with each other. And, I think that is a whole, like, another, like, mouthful. Like, as I said it, I felt like I was taking off a mouthful about the level at which somebody grows. And does that mean they don't love you because they chose not to grow with you? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a decision that a person has to make. Like, do I want to be in a relationship that's going to constantly grow, because what's not growing is this? So we got to make it make sense, But then also Kelly spoke to me from a second perspective that, shoot, okay, what if I wasn't a high school sweetheart? I'm not speaking, Kelly, this is not whether you are or not, but I'm just saying, like, considering, what if I've seen the dating pool, like, Tay, and it's Tay right, sir. What Tay said, what if I've seen the dating pool and it's terrible, and it's just like, you know what? I'm gonna stick this out because I know what the person is capable of. They just in a rut right now, or how long does a rut last? You know what I'm saying? So it's like everybody needed, to me, coming to the table with, I guess, what your favorables are, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? And I know if nothing else, people have at least one or two things that they gonna do. You know what I mean? Other things we could trade in and trade out. But some stuff is just like a non-negotiable. And I'm gonna be honest, I think I've had some bigger homies, some called bigger homies. Anybody that's 10 years plus older than me, that's a big homie to me, because you got a decade of knowledge, to share. Where, like, I have big homies right now that feel kind of sent off by the generation before them. They like, shoot, they told us to go this route. And I'm like sitting in my choices now and like I'm there resentful of them or regretting it because I followed this blueprint to marriage or to whatever the happy thing was, you know, to do, and it wasn't right. So I just to say all that to say, right, I can't say that if, because communication, right, like, is God speaking to the woman? Who's to, what if God is her consciousness? What, and that it is something on her heart because she spoke it, right? If we're vessels for the Most High, you know, that's something that's going on with inside of her. And at the end of the day, nobody's gonna be able to feel it but her. So if it is getting rid of that man or figuring it out and saying, you know what, let me think about this, let me get this right. I mean, people, I don't know what y'all would consider about like people that take breaks from one another, but you know, 15 years, I don't know if they live together, right? Like I just need more, I feel like I would need more context to continue going in on that. But in general, it's like, it's a lot to think about, that, you know, that clip.